Hey guys, Pat here. So let's talk about The Defenders, or as I like to call it, one of the biggest disappointments in my recent TV viewing experience. You see, when that first season of Daredevil came out, I loved it. In fact, I adored it. I watched it with my girlfriend, who wasn't that familiar with comic books or even that many superhero films. But introducing her to that show, a show that was influenced by The Raid, and definitely took a cue from some of the best eras of Daredevil. Charlie Cox casting as Matt Murdock was something that was actually in support of years before it even happened. He was my pick for Batman for a long time, actually, if they were going to replace Christian Bale. And Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, was awards worthy in my opinion. Overall, the production values, the fight choreography, the dialogue, the pacing, and first season of Daredevil really kicked things off and showed that Marvel could do darker, more gritty stuff. Then we got Jessica Jones, a detective-esque show that had some really good episodes and a great villain in Kilgrave with David Tennant. Unfortunately, that show drags on way too long, and the last 6 episodes I feel just really kill that show from being really good that season. Jessica just starts making stupid decisions, and the plot goes on much longer than it required. It was basically a show that had about 6-7 episodes worth of material, and they dragged it out to 13 because Netflix wants 13. Then we got Luke Cage, which same problem. Started out very good show, first few episodes. In fact, the first 5 I thought were really good, and the flashback episode with Luke in prison I think is amazing, a great piece of television. Then they kill off the most interesting character halfway in, and the second half of the season is really slow, really stupid, and suffers from a lot of the same problems Jessica Jones did. Both shows really suffer from looking cheap. They look like they only have a few locations to go to, and there's really no money for special effects or anything like that. They look like they got a bare bones budget. Very underproduced shows. Then we have Daredevil Season 2, which actually, unlike those shows, is very well produced and has scale. Lots of action, lots of really great cinematography. Love Frank Castle, the Punisher, coming in. Love the first half of the season. Don't dislike the second half of the season. Unfortunately, though, the plot starts to become very convoluted, and we get introduced more and more to the Hand. And the Hand is a terrible villain. The Hand is one of the worst Marvel villains ever done in movies or TV. Not in the comics, really, but here alone, the Hand sucks. They haven't figured out a way to make the Hand compelling. Also, the second half of Daredevil just got convoluted. And everything with Elektra and Matt and all that stuff just, honestly, it didn't make a lot of sense. I've watched it 3 or 4 times, and I just look at it and I go, yeah, could you guys just spend a little bit more time fleshing this out? Now, the showrunners changed up with that show. In the first season, Drew Goddard was involved early on, and then other people replaced him. But I still think the second season of Daredevil was awesome. It was a great pulpy television. Now, I'll never like Karen and Foggy, and I just wish they weren't on the show. I legitimately hate Karen and Foggy. I hate the actors who play them. I hate their terrible dialogue, and I hate every single scene with them pretty much. I much prefer the other side characters like Claire or Elektra or Stick, who is one of the best characters. The Daredevil show has set the standard for the modern superhero show. Unfortunately, the other Netflix shows, due to some poor writing decisions and cheaper budgets, wasn't able to match that. That doesn't mean that Defenders couldn't be awesome, though, right? The Defenders was the cake. It's what we all wanted. It was the birthday present. It's Christmas. It's like, hey, some of these shows may be mediocre, kind of like how some of the Marvel movies were, but then we're going to do this big budget show that brings all of these actors together, and they're going to fight and fight against Sigourney Weaver, and the Hand's going to come out, and you're going to see why this is so awesome. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention Iron Fist. Yeah. That goes better that way. Let's just ignore that. So they made Iron Fist, a show that suffered from bad writing, directing, acting, and bad production values. It didn't have anything going for it. It was just a bad show. I'm not even sure how Iron Fist happened. They have this great character in Danny Rand and this mystic stuff, and Kun Lun and him fighting a dragon, and they don't do anything with that. They don't have flashbacks or anything interesting going on. There's like a dozen cool ways to do an Iron Fist show, and they found the most boring, dull way to do it. Honestly, I'm legit baffled how that show happened. So Netflix is $20 billion in debt, And it feels like Disney doesn't want to put a lot of money into these shows, and it doesn't feel like Netflix wants to put any more money into them, because the Defenders, unfortunately, looked really cheap. Really, really cheap. Like, absurdly so. And the Defenders is pretty much, for me, on par with Iron Fist or the second half of Jessica Jones or Luke Cage, if not worse. This show, while not being terrible, still kind of sucked. I really, God, there's so many things to go into because it's so popular. This is a late review and everyone else has already crapped on the show. It's like talking about Game of Thrones Season 7 at this point. Where do you even begin with the Defenders? Bad pacing, awful, awful dialogue. It's just them explaining exposition or saying what they're going to do. There's so many times that I wrote down dialogue to make sure I was seeing it right or hearing it right, I guess. And the characters just say stuff like, hey, let's go do this. Hey, we can't do that. Okay. Hey, what are we going to do? What's the plan? Hey, just listen to me. Hey, it's going to be okay. Everything will be all right. Hey, we got to stop fighting. I mean, it's like just very basic dialogue, especially in the final episode. It's just like Luke, Jessica, and Matt Murdock standing around going like, can we do this? Yeah, let's do this. All right. Hey, let's go fight. Hey, they're going to destroy the city if we don't do something. Okay, yeah, you're right. What are you guys up to? We won't tell you. I won't let you get away with this. I mean, with really bad acting, too, for the most part, I felt like Luke became a lot less charismatic and interesting, the actor and character, except for a few conversations he has with Jessica and Danny. Unfortunately, Finn Jones did not get any better since Iron Fist and is pretty bad here, and his character's it's just hard to watch. He's insufferable. Jessica Jones does pretty well, and so does Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. They're okay, but I hate how they wrote Daredevil this season. He's just a little bitch. He's just chasing, oh, where's my girlfriend? I want to save my girlfriend. I love her. I don't want to be Daredevil anymore. The team doesn't even meet up for like 3 episodes. The first 2 episodes are just almost pointless. You can honestly take the first 2 and slap them together. I did like episode 3, though. I will say before I crap on the show. Episode 3 and 4 I did like. Elektra gets a backstory and we find out what happened after Daredevil Season 2. That was very cool. And there was some cool action in episode 3. And episode 4, I think that's the one at the Chinese restaurant. And I did like that one, too, even though the writing was really silly. Stick comes in, and Stick is awesome. And Stick's been in the show for a little bit, but he gets to kind of steal the scene, because he always does, and I absolutely love Stick. And Stick was the only thing this season I really liked. That didn't end too well, but he was great. I mean, you can't go wrong there. He's been great since the first season of Daredevil, and I love seeing him here again. And he was the only character I enjoyed anything he said and did for the most part. The show feels so... God, it feels underproduced, and it feels underwritten. It's like they didn't even have a premise with these guys fighting the Hand. I thought this was going to be some odd setup for Heroes for Hire, with Danny and Luke becoming friends and then deciding to be superheroes, and Jessica kind of being a detective for them on the side that helps them find information, and maybe Matt Murdock's a lawyer. I thought this was going to be the show where they all got together and realized why they needed to be a team of people that knew each other and worked together. Instead, the 4 actors don't have chemistry. For the most part, their relationship isn't organic. The Hand sucks. The Hand is a... Sigourney Weaver comes in and just gives in this awful, just cringy, forced performance, and her doing martial arts, and it just doesn't look right, and her character ends up being kind of a MacGuffin anyway, and honestly, it felt like a waste of her talents and a waste of quite everything. I was so hyped for the show, man. You guys do not know my disappointment. I loved the trailer. I thought, man, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see these actors together. I thought it was just going to be them talking and being entertaining. I didn't need it to be a good action show. Sadly, the dialogue's the worst part. Like, them hanging out and talking is terrible. They just bicker with each other. They're very annoying. Jessica's the only one that seems to consistently get a funny line or two or something to do. Everyone else, it's like a soap opera. Oh my god, what happened to some of that good writing from the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, especially like the stuff with Kingpin? Where did that go? They have all these comic books to pull from, and they write a story this generic. They go for this popcorn blockbuster entertainment thing here. I mean, it's on the edge of being a little Michael Bay. I mean, it's really that bad. It's so just, here's a movie for 12-year-olds, or here's a show, I guess, a miniseries. It didn't need to be 8 episodes. It could have been 5 or 6, and then that could have let them use more money for certain episodes. The Hand just it's show don't tell. The problem with The Hand is everything's told to us. They just talk about how evil they are. And there's so many scenes in this show, like dozens, where characters are telling other characters, you don't know how tough these guys are. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't know what they're going to do. Trust me, they're bad. Things are worse. What are we going to do? Over and over and over again. Just terrible screenwriting. It's just exposition or characters talking about what's going on in the plot without actually discussing anything about themselves or what they're going to do. I mean, it makes them all come off like idiots. They all come off really dumb. They're all just as annoying and dumb as Danny Rand in this. Like, nobody stands out as clever. There's even a point where they go, hey, we have a plan at the end. And I'm like, oh, what's this plan going to be? And it's like, oh, wow, you're going to jump on them. Great plan. Terrific. Oh, my God. And the thing that sucks is the show starts off kind of cool. Like, whenever they go to a different location, to Jessica Jones, to Luke Cage, to Matt Murdock, a different part of the city, they use a different color filter. So they change it up. So if it's Daredevil, it looks like Daredevil show. If they go to Iron Fist, it looks like Iron Fist. If they go to Jessica Jones, it has that, like, purple-blue look. If they go to Luke Cage, it looks like that yellow thing. It's awesome. I really liked that detail. And they were trying to mix tones. Sometimes rap music would come into an Iron Fist scene and stuff like that. I thought that was a very cool idea. Unfortunately, the first episode's just fluff and serves no purpose. Episode 2, 3, and 4, I think, are all right. 5, 6, 7, 8. Episode 7, I guess it's okay. The finale's really the one that killed this. The last episode sucks. Except for, like, this 10-minute epilogue at the end that I actually really liked. That actually... And honestly said more about those characters. It was more interesting in the final 10 minutes than it was for 8 episodes of show. Like, you actually got more of a sense of who these people were at the end of it than you did the entire thing. Man, wow. So the Hand has some stupid plan, earthquake machine. They want to go to Kunlun so they can live forever. They need the Iron Fist. It's all about them getting the Iron Fist. It's really just two kids trying to steal the coolest kid to go play with on the playground. It feels so childish at points. We never get a sense of the mystic elements. We never get to see anything. There's cool moments of action. The choreography's not bad, although it's not great either. This isn't up to Daredevil standards. And man, I just can't get over how cheap this looked. It looked like it had no money spent. Like, it looked like they had 4 locations and that was the whole show. And they spent too much money on actors. Sigourney Weaver's wasted. I did like Elektra and the actress a lot, and I thought she had a pretty decent little... She's the only one that I had, like, I think had an arc that I thought was sort of interesting and a character I was kind of interested in. Everyone else was so two-dimensional. And they just kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. There was no growth. It was just like, oh my god, it's that typical stuff. We have to learn to become a team and work together. It's like, oh god, just stop it. Just stop torturing me with the mediocrity. Man, let me compliment some things, though. The color filter things. The cinematography overall is very good. Kristen Ritter, I think that's her name, Jessica Jones, I think it probably steals the show. She probably gets the best dialogue and gives the best performance. I like Claire Rosario Dawson a lot in all of these things. Maybe that's just because she's like one of the like most beautiful women of all time. But I really liked her. I liked the editing in parts. I liked the transitions. I like the cliffhangers in a couple episodes. I did like that one guy in The Hand from Iron Fist that just talks like, "You will come join me." I thought things worked better with subtitles with those characters, actually. Man, once the show really started to kick in, I just got this feeling in my stomach that was getting worse and worse. Of like, oh wow, this is bad, and it is. It is bad. It's not just mediocre. It's bad. Like, this is lazy. It's contrived. It's poorly thought out. The plot is a mess, to say the least. The characterization is not up to par with the previous Marvel shows outside of Iron Fist. This is not as well written as Luke Cage was or Jessica Jones. There's nothing here. In fact, it made me think they should have saved someone like Kilgrave for this show, and then you could have saw Kilgrave make all the characters turn on each other and fight or something like that. The Hand was really... Man, they never felt like a threat at all. They just keep talking about how threatening they are, and other people talk about how threatening they are, and Stick keeps talking about this war, and then it never feels epic or like it really goes anywhere. I mean, really, they almost ruin the entire Netflix Marvel universe with this. I think Daredevil can recover, and the Punisher looks awesome, but they need to reevaluate this whole thing. They need to think shorter seasons and a little bit more money for the sets, or at least for the action scenes or something like that. And God, just spend more time on these scripts. Oh my God, these scripts were terrible. Every single one of these scripts, even the best one, which was probably episode 3 or 4, they're still pretty just like eh. I hated how much they cut to Karen, Foggy, or Misty Knight. Every time something interesting was happening and you want to hang out with these characters, they just cut to Karen or Foggy or Misty Knight, and they make them so crucial to the show. And they think we care about those side characters. It's like, no, it's called The Defenders. I want to watch the movie or the show about the Defenders. I want to watch them team up and fight the bad guys. You will be shocked how much of this show spends time with the side characters. It's absurd. There's a whole thing at the police station with Misty and all these characters we know from the show, and they don't do anything. They just keep talking about how much they love these people, and we're supposed to get by on emotion, which I don't mind. If it's going to be a blockbuster, that's fine. Give me spectacle. There's no spectacle here. No, none at all. It's awful. There's 2 good fight scenes probably in the whole show. The rest you could tell when the punches aren't hitting. There's bad music cues. They rarely use Luke's powers. Jessica makes no sense. She goes in and just... Honestly, Kristen Ritter can't fight. She just looks awful fighting. And she has super strength, but she can still get shot and stabbed and stuff, so it makes no sense she isn't dead. When she runs into the hallway, the best fight scene in the show, probably episode 3 in the hallway, she pretty much should have died. Somebody should have stabbed her immediately. Luke Cage is the only one that makes sense to me doesn't die. And maybe Matt Murdock, because he wears armor, although he wasn't wearing armor in that episode. I did really dig that part, the part where he puts the scarf on, and she's all like, he's like, I need your scarf, and she's like, you look ridiculous, and then they fight together. That was a cool scene. I thought that was like, if the show could have consistently kept that kind of tone and energy and fun with the group of them going out there and doing things, I think it could have been a fun show, which is what they were going for. They were going for fun and just entertainment. Which I guess for some people this was that. I didn't find this that entertaining. I was bored through most of it. I was like, oh my God, pick the pacing up. I mean, we sat through all these shows of setup, and then the payoff is one of the slowest burning ones. Like, Daredevil moved quicker than this. Every episode of Daredevil has like an action beat or a plot point that's really interesting. This show does not. It does not. Man, besides the hand just sucking, which really they just did. They were awful. They felt so pointless and small, and the way it was so tied in with Iron Fist just was awful because he's the worst character out of the group, and he became so important here, and it's almost like they knew Finn Jones sucked. And it just confirmed how... It makes you wonder how Finn Jones even got cast. He's legitimately a bad actor. Like, he can't deliver his lines without sounding like some guy in a high school play trying to do something serious. I mean, it's embarrassing. I don't know how he got past. I'm not saying it would have been better with an Asian actor. I just don't know how this guy got cast. He's legitimately awful. Man, Charlie Cox, Daredevil, I love him, but man, they made him a little bitch. They cut his balls off. He's just kissing the ass of Elektra, and he's just... Nothing he does makes any sense, and the ending's confusing as hell. It's like, how does that make any sense? Nobody would survive that. F that. And I'm sorry if I'm spoiling things, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The show has no consequences. Nothing actually happens at the end of the show. Nothing actually really gets accomplished except they stop the bad guys. And then we're gonna go into these side stories. I think you should cancel Iron Fist and do Heroes for Hire. And just do that with Luke Cage and him, because the actor who plays Luke Cage can carry a show. Unfortunately, his writing on here was just bad. They made Luke a lot less likable and interesting. I felt like they just made him boring. Like, oh, I'm a good guy. I don't do bad things. But in Luke Cage, I know they took out a lot of his attitude and stuff about him that I really liked as a character. That he wasn't a stereotypical black guy. That he actually... I mean, I don't know. There was something about how they did that in that show I really dug, and I didn't like him in here, and that bothers me because I love Luke Cage. Man, it's the side characters really brought this down. I mean, I was just rolling my eyes every time they cut back to Karen or someone, or Jessica's sister, and they're just like, you know what they do? They never listen to us. I know they never will. This is what always happens. Yep, he's gonna get himself killed. I know. I mean, it's just boring crap. They're not actually having conversations. They're not talking. They're just saying things to each other as actors because they need to, because they need to fill the time. They're not actually having compelling conversations. There's never really even the time when they all meet up and talk at the Chinese restaurant. They don't really talk about anything. They just sit around and say like, "We should fight together." "No, we shouldn't." "How do we get involved in this?" "I don't know, but I don't want to work with you guys." "Okay." And then just, thank God for Stick, just dropping truth bombs left and right. Love Stick in this. Unfortunately, if you're a Stick fan, this really didn't work out well. Oh my God, what? F you guys, too soon. So we have bad villains, bad plotting, bad dialogue, and cheap production values outside of a few fight scenes. Is there anything about the show that is charming? Is there anything that's going to hold on that might elevate it? Well, I will say there is an odd chemistry they tap into somewhat between Jessica and Matt Murdock. And in the future, I would like to see maybe some kind of love triangle between Matt, Jessica, Luke, or even with Claire in there, because Claire is with Luke now, and she dated Matt. And Matt likes Karen, but he did like Claire a lot, and I don't know, I just feel like maybe they could do something with that, and maybe they should have even done that here. But they have Matt so in love with Elektra, like blindly, so it's kind of making him boring as a character. Like I kind of like, I know he's a good guy and he's Catholic and he doesn't want to sleep around, but I don't know. It'd be more interesting if he was a little gray about this. Like, well, maybe he's trying to mac on Jessica, you know? But there's one scene at the end here with Jessica and Luke I found fascinating. She says a line to him. She says, "Maybe we can go get coffee sometime." And the crazy thing about this line is you can read it multiple ways. Is she saying, "Hey, I want to come hook up"? Or is she saying to him, "Is that the only reason you want to be friends, so we can hook up?" Or is she calling him out for the guy he used to be? Or, I mean, there's like that was good writing. The final scene between Jessica and Luke, and they address the stuff that happened in Luke Cage, the closure between the two of them, it kind of makes you go, where's that going to go? I did like that. We needed more of that. They didn't really set up anything here to take us into the future shows that's interesting. The characters are pretty much at the same place they were before anything started. I mean, that's the crazy part. Nothing really changed. Like, Matt's going to be the same guy. Jessica's going to be the same. Luke's going to be the same. Danny just wants to fight for New York now because it's home. Oh, God. Yeah. And then Misty. I really don't like Misty. I don't think the actress really brought it here. I thought she was alright in Luke Cage, but she had a purpose in that show. Here, they just use her so they can try and explain the cops. That's the only reason she's in here, is to try and explain the cops away. Did not like her. Felt like she got way too much screen time. Rosario Dawson gets a lot of screen time, and she can elevate anything she's in, but they only give her so much to do as well. Man, it's just, I can't believe how they got so much wrong. There's just simple stuff you should be able to get right, like these actors being fun together and having fun on camera. And it's like they almost hated each other, like they didn't even get along, the actors. You felt like there was no actual on-set chemistry. By the time I got to the ending, I just felt very unfulfilled. It was a drag to get through this. I didn't have fun. I heard some people said they marathoned this in like 8 hours and had a fun time. I didn't feel that way. I thought it was up and down the whole time. There'd be, you know, when Daredevil finally shows back up in costume, it's cool for a little bit to see him. But even that just starts falling apart. You know, because I love Daredevil. I'm a Daredevil fanboy. I have a Daredevil tattoo on my arm. I mean, I'm as big of a fan as you can be. I think he's the shit. But unfortunately here, they kind of lost that charm they found with him in that show. I'm still really excited about Daredevil Season 3, though. I think that show, they kind of have their own universe figured out, except for Karen and Foggy coming in with their, like... I mean, Foggy acts like he wants to have sex with Matt all the time. He acts like his girlfriend. I mean, it's very uncomfortable for me to watch. I don't like watching a man be that feminine all the time. Like, it's like he's a stalker. Like, it's just strange. Even Karen, who's his girlfriend, doesn't act weird, although she has, like, spasms and orgasms when Matt just touches her frickin' arm. So frickin' awkward. Man, the police station stuff, all the crap with that. I mean, I really can't compliment much. It sucked. They did such a bad job at writing, at directing, at pacing, at themes. God, there is no themes. It's just, it's so shallow. This is such a shallow show. It shows that the Netflix TV thing, which I thought was going to branch out and be superior to the Marvel films, is not happening. This is not superior to the Avengers films. This is not better than Civil War. This is not better than your typical Marvel movie. This is below par. And it worries me. What's going on there at Marvel? Why isn't Kevin Feige more involved here? Why isn't Netflix stepping in here more? What happened? How did this happen? Why is this all falling apart? Like, ever since that first season of Daredevil, everything's kind of been disappointing, and we've seen a decline. It's like, why can't you reach that benchmark again? What happened? How did you give us that awesome hallway fight in episode 2 that was just a single shot, and then get us here where characters are sitting around just talking about the bad guys? Like, it really feels like a 15-year-old wrote this script. If that, like his first script, like he wanted to write a comic book show, and this is the first thing he came up with. But this is professional writers and directors and actors. They have no excuse for this. I mean, it's just lazy or lack of skill. I don't know what's going on. You can do awesome things on a low budget. You can do bottle episodes. You can do dialogue-driven shows that are compelling. We didn't need a lot of action for this to be a good show. In fact, the action's one of the better elements about this show. There's actually, like I said, some decent action beats. Although there's one part with hip-hop music that did not match the scene at all and kind of just took all the air out of it when I was getting a little tense. And that's the problem with the show. You get into it and get a little tense, and then they'll do something that just screws it up and takes all the air out of it. Yeah. I don't know if I'm excited to watch this another season of Defenders. I'm almost wondering if they shouldn't do one because they screwed this up so bad. I think I'd prefer if they just keep them on their separate shows, let them do their own thing, and then try to write those shows and have compelling characters and all that. The acting in Luke Cage was so good, that show, that it's so weird how much the acting quality dropped off to this show. I mean, at points it did feel like a soap opera. It really did. It felt like soap opera acting, and I mean that 100%. It was low quality stuff. It was, even Charlie Cox at points was overacting, and it was just like, man, what's going on? But he did have terrible dialogue, to be fair. I'm trying to think if I missed anything here before I wrap this up. Yeah, the hand look. I like the actors involved, but yeah, they just talk a lot of crap and don't do much. They should have made them a mystery and in the background and been more of just this big thing, like an Illuminati, like government thing, and you never see them. But they show too much of them. We see so much of the hand that by the time we get to the finale, they don't feel like anything. And they honestly felt pointless to me. They really did. I don't get the big deal about them in the shows. It sucks because, man, I remember Daredevil in season 1 where Stick goes at the end and he talks to the hand and he talks about, that's so cool, you know, and you're so excited to see where the stuff where the hand's gonna go, and it goes nowhere. With Daredevil season 2 and this, it really hurts so much about what that first season set up. God, I'm scattered all over here because I can't even remember stuff. I don't even remember the first half of the show. I just remember some episodes. It's like, man, I can't even remember dialogue or moments. It was that dull. I kept tuning out. It was so dull. I wasn't bored always, and I didn't always hate it. You know, I can watch a generic comic book show because I'm a comic book nerd, so I'm just happy to see these characters interact sometimes. There's a part where Daredevil's like, hey, I need your help opening this, smash this wall or something, and Luke smashes the wall. That's cool. I can get into that stuff. Needed a lot more of that, them working together as a team, which is clearly the key to the success of the show, and they don't even seem concerned with that. But yeah, if I have to give an arbitrary rating to the Defenders, the part of me that's a comic book fan that watched this as just entertainment and popcorn and just, you know, watching an episode here and there to have fun, I guess it was a 6. I guess I had a good enough time. But if I'm being objective here as a show, how good this was like a 5. This was not a very good show. This is one of Netflix's worst original shows to get all this, you know, press and media hype. And for years of hype, I mean, I've been hyped up for this for a while now. Since they announced Daredevil, I was excited about this. It's basically like if the Avengers came out and had bombed and people had hated it, and it wasn't this big hit that kicked off the second phase of Marvel. This is like, holy crap, did you just ruin all the momentum that Netflix had with this whole thing? I'm not sure. I think something's going on behind the scenes with these shows, because that's the only thing that makes any sense, because they have no focus. Or they're spreading themselves too thin, and they need more people involved. Maybe Drew Goddard needs to come back and do more writing. You need someone like a Joss Whedon or something. You need someone who ran a TV show who can come in and spice these things up a bit. I mean, they need help. They need a lot of help with what's going on right now. Or with this show, why didn't they bring in the writers from Jessica Jones to write on Jessica scenes? And why didn't they bring in some of the writers from Luke Cage to write some of Luke Cage's stuff? Why didn't they spread out the writing job? Why didn't each episode... This was this was just kind of all over the place with writers and directors. I think the guys who did this were the showrunners of Daredevil Season 2, which is really odd because that was a lot better. But yeah, they wrote most of the episodes is Marco Ramirez. He worked on like almost every episode. Oh, Drew Goddard worked on episode 6. Crap. Well, I just put my foot in my mouth. I was like, why didn't they bring Drew Goddard back? And he did come back and he wrote a crappy episode. So never mind. That means something was wrong with the production here. Something went wrong, just like it did with Iron Fist. I don't know if it's the studio fighting with Netflix, if it's... Man, something seems to be off. But I don't know. I'm not into this. I do think the Punisher will be awesome. I don't know why. It just feels like they got the gritty stuff with bullets and fighting they seem to have down, but they don't seem to be able to do epic stories or comic booky stuff. They're not very good at the comic book stuff. The superhero spectacle. They're much better at like Daredevil for the most part is kind of like a crime thriller show. And he's fighting these criminals and stuff like that. And then it's got these awesome action scenes that are like martial arts movies. That's really how it works, and it works all wonders in that way. Yeah, Jesus, wow. Yeah, I was wrong. So yeah, I guess even if you bring in a talented writer, they couldn't salvage this show. Does anyone have a theory about how this all went down? In the comments, you guys can let me know. What's your theory on this? Why was this so crappy, and what is going on with these shows? Anyway, for the most part, if I had to give ratings, I think the first season of Daredevil was like an 8.5. I think the second season was like an 8. I think Luke Cage was a 6.5 to a 7. I feel the same way about Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones would have been an 8 had it been a shorter show and they'd killed off Kilgrave a lot earlier and not written themselves into a corner that they couldn't get out of. They tried to basically be Breaking Bad and drop the ball. Although there were a couple great episodes in Jessica Jones. I really thought David Tennant was wonderful. Iron Fist I'd give like a 3 or a 4, and then this show's a 5. So they're not batting a very good average right now, and I'm not excited about the future shows. Daredevil Season 3 is really going to have to kick things up a notch to bring me back in, or the Punisher's just going to have to be freaking awesome. But I've just been ranting at this point, repeating myself and going on and on about this, and I'm saying the same thing that everyone else has been saying about the bad writing and the hand and how disappointed they were. I was trying to find a unique take, and that's why this review took so long, because I can't find a unique take because there's nothing interesting about the show to find. You can't look at it and dig deep to find an interesting point of view to give on this. It's just bad. It's just bad, mediocre, crappy television. It feels like network TV. It doesn't feel like a show that's on Netflix or some kind of streaming cable, what have you, HBO, Netflix, AMC. It feels like a crappy network television show. This feels like something ABC would have done or something like that. I mean, it's weird. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is better than this. How the hell did that happen? Like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe we can figure this out together. And if you want, please defend this show in the comments. And I'm not going to be mad at you if you like it. I'm not upset if people dig it, but I don't get it. I can tell you right now, I don't understand anyone who loved this show. And I know somebody who did love it usually tells me like, well, hey, I just turned my brain off and had fun. I just had fun watching it. That's great, man. I just found this dull and boring. Man, if this is your idea of fun, then more power to you. But I'm like, this isn't fun to me. If comic books were written like this, I'd never read them. This would be some boring ass comic book. This is terrible. And they have so many comics to pull from. It's ridiculous that they wrote something this lame. They have a lot of material to go to for all these characters. So it makes no sense. And they really dropped the ball on the villain, and even more so on these guys teaming up and feeling like they grew together and stuff like that. At least in the first Avengers flick, you did feel a chemistry with the actors, and they became a team at the end, even if it was a contrived way of getting there. This doesn't really suffer from being contrived, it just suffers from being stupid. Guys, please rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. I don't want to have to do it. Everything sucked this season. Everything sucked this time. Show me the season, and I'll go commit a hate crime. Daredevil on my bookshelf. Balls cut off in the show. Why is the hand so boring in every episode? Iron Fist deserves to get cancelled. Jessica Jones needs to actually fly. I've got to be where good writing can run free. Guess I'll read my comics one more time.